So, welcome to this week's almost abstract outdoor weekly news. My name is Rob Yates. I'm one of your hosts, and tonight I have Phil if you are Grant. I have Smith if you are Jones. I have Little if you are Large. I have Bear Grylls if you're Ray Mears. I have Kobe if you're Michael Jordan. I actually have my co-founder, Mr. Mark Hopkins. Welcome, Hoppy.
Do you know what? I'm so disappointed that we didn't get any Monica Lewinsky complaints from last week. That's been my low light of the whole week.
I know. I must try harder. I'm just terrified of the Me Too movement arriving at my front door and abducting me and shaving my testicles or chopping them off or something if I take it too far. Chicken. That's it. So how's your week been, Mr. Hopkins? What have you been doing? Have you been outdoors? Tell us the highlights and the lowlights of this last 7 days.
So the highlights have been breaking the law. I've quite enjoyed doing that this week. Actually, I didn't know I was breaking the law till someone told me I was breaking the law, but that was a highlight. And then I've been having issues with dakas this week. So for those of you who don't know, what?
Is it a bird?
No, a daka is a small antelope. It's like a little baby deer.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yes.
So I've got a daka in my garden who has taken a proper fancy to my vegetable patch. So I've got lovely kale leaves, we've got spinach growing, we've got so much stuff growing, and every blooming morning I come down and there's like footprints, in the paw prints, footprints, that would be a proper weird daka if there were footprints. But there are hoof prints in the vegetable patch, and then chunks. So I'm tempted to do what a lot of South Africans do around monkeys, to go and get a paintball gun. And then I might start trying to protect my vegetable patch with a paintball gun. Not to shoot it at the daka, just to make sounds. But anyway, so daka, I've got a daka issue. People in the UK have trouble with slugs attacking their vegetable patch. I have a freaking daka attacking my vegetable patch.
So a mini deer. So a daka is a bit like an undersized muntjac, really, isn't it? That's the sort of for people in the UK. And for people in America, it's just a really small deer. Hello, Mr. Lee Bly. Thank you for joining us. So you haven't been doing anything as peculiar, though, like lying with hyenas.
Yeah, this is random.
Go on, tell me more.
So I was just, as we do, we start looking around, and then, when you get certain headlines that just make you sit up and go, they must be. We had this conversation previously about we should write headlines for news companies because we'll be so much better at it than the people who write the boring headlines.
100%.
I think this one. So there's a photographer called Kim, and Kim is going to be coming on to be interviewed by us in hopefully next week, live into the Facebook group. So he is one of the top CNN wildlife photographers, and he's based in Zimbabwe at the moment. And he just decided one day that it's a good idea to take his camera out in the bush, go and find a big pack, or what are they called? Are they prides or packs of hyenas?
Packs, I think.
Packs, yeah, I think so. And a big pack of hyenas, and lie down in the middle of this pack of hyenas and start taking photos.
Yeah, they're flipping dangerous, hyenas, as well. Like, they are probably more stroppy, more hungry, and more dangerous than lions in a lot of ways. Oh, that's just terrifying.
Like my ex-wife, a hyena is.
Oh, look. Lindsay Hopkins has just joined the men. I'm joking.
Actually, I did a recent trip around in a big Game 5 place in South Africa, and we did a morning drive. And you obviously think of hyenas as scavengers.
Don't tell me you spotted your ex-wife in the bush.
Yeah, and then I spotted some hunters after, so I gave her position away. But yes, watching hyenas hunt is actually quite entertaining because they are terrible. They are so slow and they look bloody stupid with their short, squat back legs and their longer front legs. But yeah, and then these cute little hyena cubs came and started chewing the car, which was pleasing until you
Nice. They are as vicious as a very vicious thing. When I was in the South African bush the other week, before lockdown, we had one the other side of the fence from us that sat and stared at my 3-year-old daughter for about 45 minutes, to the point where I'm like, "Okay, Caitlin, let's go to bed, because this hyena only wants one thing, and you're definitely supper." So moving on swiftly, Mark, moving on swiftly. I've got something else I want you to tell everybody about and tell me about as well. And you mentioned this week that you've been breaking the law, which is
Yes.
interesting. And you also said that you've heard about a man who got arrested in Disney World this week.
This is brilliant. So again, I don't quite know what to believe of this one, because this guy has broken into Disney, and I think it's called Tropicana Island or Tropical Island. And in lockdown, he basically had enough of being where he was. So he went out with his backpack on and a tent. He broke into Disney World, and for the last month has been camping in Disney World to avoid the lockdown.
Genius.
So he's literally, he's had Disney World to himself, and then unfortunately he got caught. They didn't tell you how he got caught, but I bet it was like doing a skinny dip in the sea or in the lakes or something like that, and he got spotted or something. And he had no idea he was breaking the law. I feel his pain.
Hang on. Just rewind that. So he knowingly broke into private property to live in somebody else's property for the past 4 weeks. And he says, "Sorry, officer, I didn't know I was breaking the law by like entering private property."
That is exactly his argument, which obviously landed him in one place.
Court.
Yeah. Didn't fly. So yeah, apparently camping in Disneyland during Disney World during lockdown is not allowed.
Done.
But I thought it was quite a good idea, to be honest. I actually applauded him for it, because that took a little bit of planning, a little bit of ingenuity.
I mean, he's achieving social distancing.
I don't see what I think. Do you know what? I'm not going to say what I'm going to say, because that's completely politically incorrect. But I think it's a good way to overcome some of the challenges that society are facing at the moment. There we go. I should say what I wanted to say later on. I haven't had enough. What do you call it? Leapfrog yet to say
Leapfrog. That? Lefroy. Mark is drinking a very fine single malt whiskey. Everybody should go try it at some point in time, or my cognac, one or the other. Now, I had a piece of news.
Talking about single malt whiskey, there's a country that's quite famous for whiskey that you came up with something that's quite entertaining and quite exciting.
I don't know about entertaining, but definitely exciting. And it's kind of made my day, really. So for years and years and years in the UK, certainly when you and I were both kids in the UK, every county council had its own series of outdoor education centres, and it was almost like a highlight of the school year, wasn't it? To go on your adventure camp, your adventure holiday, your team building, whatever it might be. And we used to go for 2 weeks at a time when I was at school. And over the past 15, 20, I left school quite a while ago. Over the past 20 plus years, they've been progressively cutting down and closing outdoor education facilities for kids in the UK. But in Scotland today, they've announced that their go back to school strategy for their kids is going to be outdoor education. They're going to take kids outside, because that's the easiest place to do social distancing, keep them clean, keep them apart, and do all of their lessons in the outdoors, which for me is like, if there was only ever one good thing to come out of lockdown and coronavirus, and it was kids actually getting to go and learn in the outdoors, that is just, that would actually make my decade if that was the outcome from coronavirus, that kids actually get to go outside and learn in the outdoors again, and that's what the government's thinking of. I think it's bloody superb.
They could have picked a warmer bloody climate to choose us to do it in, though. Scotland's miserable most of the year.
Well, you say that, but there's a scheme called Forest Schools that comes out of Scandinavia, and it's where primary school kids in Norway, Sweden, and Finland spend half their school day every day outside, which is probably quite delightful in the middle of summer in Scandinavia, 24-hour day sunlight, so on and so forth. But Scandinavia for a half a day when it's minus 40 degrees is a bit parky. But they take the kids out all year round, regardless. They just change the clothing and change the activity dependent upon the weather. So if they can do it in Scotland and they can do it in Norway, I guess we can do it anywhere.
But I think there's two key points that we're talking about here with our little serious hat on at the moment. Let's be serious for 2 seconds.
Hang on.
Our one serious hat, your serious cognac. There you go.
Serious hat.
Serious thing is, anybody can appreciate the outdoors as long as you're kitted out properly. So the amount of times you see people who are going in the outdoors, they don't know what the weather's like, and then they're just so underprepared, they look like idiots, and then they die. Like your people you were talking about in Snowdon who died. The second thing, which is the other serious part, is I reckon they should have, every curriculum should have an outdoor exam in it. Like, stop this English, maths, geography, stop learning all that shit. How much of that stuff did you apply in college, university, or in your day-to-day work? Okay, you probably apply, exactly. But imagine if everybody had to pass an exam which says, make a fire, build a shelter. That's a pretty cool thing to learn to do, that you can then apply that. Which other thing can you apply every single country in the world? You can apply the same principles in every country in the world. Make a fire. You can't apply maths in the same country because some people have stupid little differences that you've got no idea what's going on anymore. English, everyone should speak English, but they don't because they're lazy. So English doesn't help us everywhere. So there we go. I think Scotland should not only do outdoor lessons, they should create an outdoor exam, and they should scrap physics, or Latin. Oh my gosh, I hated Latin.
So it's funny you mentioned physics. So I used to work a lot with mostly young men who are on the verge of being permanently excluded from high school, from secondary school. And we used to take them in the outdoors because if they're lost and they don't know where they are, it's quite hard for them to run away. And then they become a lot more sheepish or lamb-like when they are scared. And we ended up in fact, one of my old business partners ended up teaching physics in canoes. Because
cool.
Physics, pulls, pushes, fulcrums, all of the physics movements that we know, we actually can go and apply in a canoe. Levers, so on and so forth. And he ended up doing that. But I think, with my serious hat on for a second, and I will take it off in a second, if we are still to have the outdoors in a well looked after, pristine, cared about way in 30 or 40 years' time, we need primary school children today to develop a love for the outdoors, because you look after what it is you love. And if we don't help them get this love for the outdoors, they won't know that they should look after it because they don't know they love it, and they'll just abuse it like everybody else does. So I think fundamentally that's like, if we want a big well looked after outdoors in the future, engaging kids in the outdoors is singly the thing we need to be focusing on.
See, I think I've got an idea in my head. I think what we can do is we get outdoors to start beating that drum around an outdoor love education for kids.
Yes. Let's make it happen. August or September.
Done. I'm writing my notes down, you see.
Perfect. If I reckon I could teach people how to get kids in the outdoors and run a business.
Not lose them.
I reckon I could teach them to run it, to make a profit out of it, and take kids in the outdoors. I reckon we could teach people to do that. How to run their own outdoor business at a profit, avoid being knocked by Amazon or REI. That we can do that as well. And people could get to work in the outdoors, make great money, and save the outdoors at the same time. I reckon we could do that. What do you reckon?
Well, I reckon if there are people watching this now who would be interested in doing that or learning that, I reckon they should drop us a comment and we can get in touch with them and then take that a little bit further, because it's something we are so passionate about. With Caitlin, she's 3.5 now, isn't she? Nearly 4.
Nearly 4. Hey, you've disappeared.
Time.
Say that again. You disappeared.
I said she's 4 in a couple of weeks' time, isn't she?
That's right.
Shoot. So with your 4-year-old and my soon-to-be 11-year-old, we are prime parents to drive this message.
Exactly. That's going to be, it can be our soapbox to stand on. But taking my serious hat off, you found something earlier this week, which was around the future of travel, and you had some questions about it or for it or something for me. And I'm not really too sure what, but what was it? What's it all about? What have you found?
So I read this article around what people are thinking the future of travel and holidays are going to be like post-coronavirus. So, and they had examples of, you know, when you go to Europe and the Mediterranean and you've got all those sun lounges on the beach, that they're going to put perspex between each sun lounger. So you can't, that's seriously, perspex between each sun lounger. They had robotic disinfectant machines that you had to go through. There's obviously this talk about this immunity passport that you have to do. They had some some from the wacky to the ridiculous ideas of what the future travel is going to be like. My favorite was perspex between each sun lounger on the beach. That was my number one thing of just hilarious stupidity. Imagine that, a beach in Costa del Sol with 1,000 sun loungers and perspex in between each sun lounger. And then what do? They get up and they go and swim together. I just think it's bloody, anyway. So I was just thinking,
a spray tan booth that you have to walk through, and it sprays like bleach or something at you to disinfect you as you walk through it.
Well, if you're someone American president, you probably have to inject it to cleanse yourself as well. And the problem is, all the women from Essex will probably be standing there thinking it's a spray tan and wouldn't know what to do when they didn't come out looking orange.
That's it. For those of you who don't know where Essex is, just imagine somewhere where I don't know how to describe Essex.
Yeah, I'm about to say without getting shot next time you go to Essex.
Just go Google search chavs or Essex girls or something like that, and you'll come up with a really interesting definition, especially if you go into the Google Images when you type that in as well. So you
most of it will say adult content.
Listen, I think the future of travel is going to be interesting. I think that the future of air travel, I think, is going to be pretty special. I wouldn't be surprised if flights get very expensive very quickly, where they've got you sat, I mean, at last we'll have some leg space, where they've got you sat 2 seats apart or something like that. But I also think people will travel closer to home. I don't think people will want to go to some Balearic Mediterranean island and go and lie on a sun lounger where they've got a perspex screen between them and the person next to them, and they can't talk to them, and so on and so forth. I just don't see people wanting that or getting enjoyment for that.
So what I reckon is going to happen.
Go on.
So, you know, when you get on a plane and you have if you travel like business class or decent plane, when you get your business class bag with all your goodies in it. So what I reckon is going to happen is, before you get to an airport, they're going to meet you outside. And do you remember watching Naked Gun? Remember that Naked Gun? And do you remember that scene where they had safe sex? And they had head-to-toe condom, and they had sex in a head-to-toe condom. Yeah. I reckon everyone's going to have to put on a head-to-toe condom before you're allowed in the airport, and you're going to have to sit from Sydney to like New York, 17 hours in a head-to-toe condom, not moving. That's what I reckon the future of travel is going to be like.
I was there with yellow hazmat suits. You know, the ones that the nuclear people wear when they go into with the big masks and the respirators. I was there. That's what I hear. Yellow hazmat suits. I don't know what the future of travel is going to be. There's a fair chance that people might just end up saying screw it and ignoring it all and carrying on regardless. There is a fair chance that may happen. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I think like my plans this year is going to hike, fingers crossed, if we can get out to Africa and get to Namibia. I want to hike the Fish River Canyon. That's top of my list this year.
And we've got a challenge mark.
Exactly. And I want to go and do a really crazy, stupid challenge, which involves bloody running away from hyenas. Actually, that would be a challenge, doing a Kim and lying hyenas and take a photo. Now that would be a challenge. I would properly poo my pants then.
So for those of you who don't know, we've got a new little project coming up in We Get Outdoors called Challenge Mark. And Mark's first challenge is going to be surviving for a week while hiking around a big 5 game reserve in South Africa, camping out at night with just him and a armed guard, because I really would still like a business partner at the end of it. And just him and an armed guard surviving in the African bush. And we've done a hike like it in the past, and we got up close and very personal to rhino, elephant. We saw lion, buffalo, giraffe.
Black mamba.
Oh, a black mamba snake. Yeah, we got
that.
close.
That was the worst thing I saw.
Anyway, that's about Challenge Mark. Right, Mr. Hopkins, you've chosen your image of the week. Your picture of the week. What is it this week, please?
So I've gone for a different tack this time. I've gone artistic in my old age. I think it's the leapfrog that's made me all artistic. This is a photo by Jill Conry-Mueir, who has taken about 3 or 4 photos of a bioluminescence from San Diego County in California, which is it's so cool. It's these waves lapping up and the colors are spectacular. It's obviously taken at night, because if it was at day, it'd be a really crap photo. But it's just beautiful. It's just, I think the thing that we both felt about this photo was the simplicity of it, of just what Mother Nature does on its own accord. And just, I felt very serene when I watched and looked at the videos and the photos. So yeah, Jill, thank you very much for a very different outdoor photo this week, but also just a very, very cool one. I think it'd be better if we put someone in a bunny suit just in front of the waves. That would take in the photo to a whole new level, but that's just me being picky.
Barry Hughes, where are you when we need you? Can I tell you a funny story about bioluminescence and kayaking?
I never thought I'd ever hear the words funny story, bioluminescence and kayaking in the same sentence. So let's go for it.
So once upon a time, because that's how all good stories should start. Once upon a time, I was out.
There we were.
There we were. But once upon a time, I was out in my sea kayak on my own, doing a bit of kayaking on my own at night on the south coast of the United Kingdom. And I was practicing for a test, an award I was going to go and sit a guiding award in a few months' time. And I was out doing this little trip, and it was about midnight. And suddenly I came across bioluminescence. They were like glowing green. When I put my paddle in the water and pulled on it, the little vortexes and little whirlpools that appear around the paddle all then glow green from the bioluminescence. And any splashes on your boat, and as your boat cuts through the water, it all glows as well. And I got so fascinated. So here I am on the south coast of the United Kingdom, about half a kilometre offshore in the pitch black, midnight, a chart on my deck of my kayak in front of me, compass, all that good stuff. And I got obsessed with these bioluminescence. And I just kept watching it and kept playing with it and kept watching it and kept playing with it. And I lost complete and utter track about where I was. The only thing I ended up seeing was a light on a headland, which looked like a pinprick in the distance. And I had absolutely, anyway, the thick and thin of this story is by the time I found myself, the sun was rising and it was heading towards breakfast time after I paddled up and down the cliff line, trying to find the beach that my tent was on, so on and so forth, because cunningly I'd left my GPS in the tent.
Genius.
Genius.
So basically, it's like, what's that, that myth that you have where you've got to go past these rocks as a sailor and you've got to put cotton wool in your ear, wax in your ear, because otherwise the singing will serenade you to the cliffs. What was that Greek mythology one?
I need to go find out.
But you had that same effect, hey? You were lulled into a false sense by bioluminescence.
It's like it hypnotized me.
Have you ever come out of it?
I don't know. I'll have another drink of cognac and see what happens. Cheers.
I didn't pour enough. My glass is empty.
I have to admit I poured far too much, but that's all good. It's adding to my enjoyment of Wednesday evening. So as we head towards the end, I've got a guest coming on to be interviewed in a few weeks' time. More about her in a second. But people are doing crazy things in lockdown. We've had people climbing on the inside of their homes, people doing like first ascents of the tree in their garden. Barry Hughes set up an expedition base camp in his back garden for him and his wife and daughter. You know, there's people. And then, Mark, you said that somebody's gone on safari in lockdown. How the bloody hell does that work?
Yeah, they created this own, like a little townish thing in the US, in the town safari lockdown, where they basically took, I think, quite random stuff, and then they literally had to go and find the big five. So it was it was for kids, but I think the funny part is if we came up with our own adult version of a safari lockdown. But this kid, so his grandfather created this, they had to go and find this thing and sing this thing and do this thing around this town. But I reckon we'd have a lot more fun coming up with an adult version of safari lockdown. So what would be one of your big five animals that you'd want to go and do, or things that you'd want to do in a safari lockdown?
Well, I'm hearing a combination of pub golf and safari at the same time. That's what's going through my head. With like, if you see a lion, you have to have 2 fingers of whiskey or something like that. That's what I've going through my head. I have to be honest.
I think that's a good plan. I think I might do a little drive tomorrow, and I'm going to find things that we can do around here that's going to create our big five safari lockdown. It might involve breaking the law a little bit, walking on beaches. Just to be clear, we're not going to do anything bad. We're not allowed to walk on beaches at the moment because apparently the beach, which is has the biggest expanse and therefore no people on it, is not allowed. But walking on the street next to somebody who never goes outside and is coughing but is allowed to exercise is the right thing to do. But hey,
get him off his soapbox.
So yeah, let's go and do that. Real good fun. So if any of our listeners have any ideas of what they would do for a safari, big five safari lockdown, then drop us a note. And you never know, we might actually, if they're funny enough and good enough, I will go and do that and I'll record it and then we'll put it up into the group of Mark's big five safari lockdown. So if you've got any ideas, send us a message. If it's funny enough and good enough and won't land me in jail too much, then I might go and do it and I'll record it for you guys.
Wow. Now on that note,
first challenge, Mark.
First challenge, Mark. There we go. Oh, that's a good idea. Yes, I like it. On that note of safari, a few weeks ago, we mentioned and shared with you the Safari Live or Wild Live on
Wild Earth Live, isn't it?
Wild Earth Live. Now, Wild Earth Live is where game rangers jump in there 4x4 with a cameraman and some form of mobile device. I don't know what it is they're using, and they stream a safari tour around a game reserve live twice a day. Anyway, I did a bit of digging and I got contacted off the back of that by one of their presenters, a Scottish lady who's living in South Africa called Lauren Arthur. And not only is Lauren a safari guide and working with Wild Earth Live here in South Africa, she's equally a marine biologist who spends the other half of her year working in the Maldives. So Lauren is going to come on the podcast in a week's time. If you've got any questions for either Kim, the guy who lies with hyenas, or Lauren, who is the safari guide and marine biologist, why not pop them in the comments of this video on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll do our best to fit them into the interview. Hey, Mark?
Yeah, I've got a question for Lauren. Why are you such a not nice person?
What, because she's got the life that you'd love to have?
Exactly. I personally think we should bar her from coming on the podcast because I think she'll probably depress me quite a lot. So I think, do we each have a guest veto, by the way?
Well, yeah, yes, and maybe no. I don't know. What do you think? I don't.
I just don't like Lauren already. I've never met her. I've watched her on TV. She's quite funny, but I just don't like her.
Jealousy, jealousy, jealousy. That's all it comes down to.
At least I've got hair.
At least you've got hair. That's it. That's very true. You can stick with that. So here we are at the end of this week's Almost Abstract, and it was not just almost, it was Abstract Outdoor Weekly News. If you've got questions you want answering, if you've got content you'd like us to feature, if you've got find the world's most bizarre, funny, abstract article or piece of news about the outdoors, please send it to us. And if anything else we've spoken about tonight is relevant to you, drop us a line, stick something in the comments, and please go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are on a mission to see how quickly we can get 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. So please go click the subscribe button and the thumbs up button, drop us a comment, and help us on this mission to find 1,000 subscribers, our first 1,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel. And if you're not watching this in YouTube, I'll put the link beneath for you.
And if we've said anything that has offended you, that you want to complain about, please send us a message as well.
Oh yeah, we haven't had any complaints yet. That's very true. We'd like a complaint. Somebody please complain about something. I tried really hard with Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton last week, and nobody said a thing. And it's not even as though as I fitted it in at the end of the news. Like I kicked the news off with Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton. So, yeah, maybe I need to be more risky and less PC, Mr. Hopkins.
Yeah, I think we should do things like, let's think about digesting disinfectants. I think we've got to talk more about that. I think we've got to call it the Chinese virus as well. It's called the Chinese virus. It's not coronavirus. It's the Chinese virus. I think there's a lot of things that we can put out there that's gonna really get people angry.
Marvelous, marvelous, marvelous. Divide and conquer. I've been reading a book about building a cult, and the brat pretty much says you need to upset 98% of people because you only want 2% in your cult. So there we go. Right, that's it from me. I'm going to go and have some more cognac. How about you, Hobby?
I was going to top up my empty glass.
Awesome. Well, it's been a privilege as always spending time with you all. Good night from me.
Good night from I Get Outdoors.
Oh, you do. I get outdoors. You get outdoors. I guess then we get outdoors.
Ba-boom.
Ba-boom. Ciao for now.